This episode of the Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Acorn 30.
Wait, that's our company.
Right. Although some people think we're a bit nuts, we work with businesses to help them grow into mighty oaks through creative campaigns, amazing websites, and funky branding. Check us out at acorn30.com. On this episode, an exclusive chat room that we can all be part of, who is using Snapchat, a possible new feature on Instagram, and some interesting stats on Snapchat users.
Creativity sells. Applying the right creative at the right time is the recipe for great marketing. The Marketing Podcast looks at marketing news and finds the secret ingredients that make great marketing.
Hi, welcome to the Marketing Podcast. I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.
How you doing, Brendan?
I'm doing really, really good.
Really, really good?
I'm doing great.
Great.
What's the right answer?
It's a great day.
It's a great day. All right, I have a question for you.
Go.
Do you use Snapchat or Instagram?
I use both.
Both, really?
Of course. Okay,
Oh.
not really. I caught. My Snapchat friends were like, really, Heather, when's the last time you sent a snap? So, I mean, 8 months ago was like hard into Snapchat, like everything I was Snapchatting. And now I
Right.
hang out more on Instagram.
Instagram.
And I would maybe now say I go into Snapchat and consume content once every couple of weeks. So I'm definitely an Instagram user. You?
Instagram. I'm not really an Instagram user. I would be more of a Snapchat user, except my phone is rooted. And so I just did a refresh recently, and I went to install Snapchat, and apparently they don't like rooted phones and won't let you sign in. So I could unroot it and install it and then root it. I could get around it, but I guess they don't want people saving photos.
Right.
So I would be more of a Snapchat user, mostly because family is a Snapchat user.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, kind of neither.
Kind of neither.
Like I want to Instagram. I really want to. I just don't think to take a picture.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think more to do Instagram stories than Instagram photos, which is weird because I'm in the app and I'm doing the thing, but it just seems easier for me to do a story.
Straight up copy of Snapchat.
Yeah. No, exactly.
There you go.
And I think that's where when my user preferences changed.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, because those Snapchat features, same thing with filters and
Yep.
being able to, put the temperature and the date and your location and all those things that I do now that I enjoy doing in Instagram, I would only be able to do in Snapchat because Instagram, of course, was only just still photos for the longest time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So yeah, I have shifted over to Instagram. I do have a lot of friends who are doing funny, hilarious things in Snapchat. My son, who is in his early 20s, his friend group, they're all over Snapchat all the time, which I think is indicative. I think that age group are. But yeah.
So Snapchat is the disappearing photo, but I've got a story for you.
Okay.
Which is even more intense. It's the disappearing chat room. So this is from The Verge, and it's the existential chat room app that you can only use when your phone is dying. So basically your battery has to be 5% or less, and then you can log into this app and chat in this chat room. And the app is called Die With Me. And so basically when you're in the chat app, it shows the percentage of battery that you have left on your phone. And you can chat with other people who have less, like have 4%, 3%, 2% battery. And then people leave the chat room when their phone dies.
Clearly.
Yeah. And so this must be for like that time you're on a bus or in a plane or you're getting home late in a taxi and your phone only has 5% left. You can like commiserate with everybody else.
Complete strangers.
Complete strangers.
Awesome.
This is like, did you ever hear of Omegle or what was the other one where they just like set you up with a complete stranger to chat with online? Very terrible, except for the few like people who like played the piano. So you would like, they'd be like, what do you want me to play? And then they'd play you a song on the piano.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I feel like that's what this is, but when your phone is dying.
So I would never, ever, ever, ever even think to use this. Not because I don't like striking up conversations with strangers, because almost to a fault, my husband hates it whenever I go out because it's like, oh, hello, cashier.
Stop meeting people?
Yeah.
I get that too.
So I would enjoy that concept. However, the stress and anxiety that I feel when my phone gets down to 5%, even when it gets down to 20. Now, I must say I am one of those iPhone battery victims, if you will.
Oh, yeah. Your
so
phone is slowing down.
My phone is slowing down. But always, like if my phone when I get that first notification saying your battery is getting low, I start like zipping down anything on my phone that might use extra resources so I can keep my battery. Because I mean, I get to a point now, I just carry my charger everywhere. And today, coincidentally, as we sat down in the studio, all I had was the plug that went into the wall because the USB cord part is sitting in my car from when I charged it last. And I'm like, I'm not going to get through this afternoon doing this without my phone dying. So I've zipped everything down already, and I'm working off my laptop, hopefully, you know. So 5% left on my phone. I would not waste that effort and energy to make friends with strangers.
If I had 5% left on my phone, there's nothing else I'm going to be doing.
That's awesome.
It's done. It's done.
So it disappears and people just open up and...
This is it. Now, I have to say, my nerdiness, the first time I thought of this, I was like, I'm going to go over and get that app, and then I'll find some other app that emulates, because I'm rooted, that emulates a low battery, and I'll just hang out in that chat room and see how fun it is.
There you go.
But the app costs money.
Oh.
I think on a marketing point of view, like, this is hilarious. Like, pay them to chat in their chat room while your phone dies.
Yeah. And
well played.
The irony of phoning a friend, right? It's
like,
my phone is dying.
Exactly.
I need to phone a friend.
Yeah.
I did see, however... Interestingly, I don't even know how this works from a technology standpoint, and if you know, you don't even need to explain it because I don't really care. But like, you can't even get into a room into the app or into the chat room if your battery has anything higher than a 5% charge.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I mean, it is neat. I would never do it still. What do we have next?
Snapchat. More Snapchat.
Is this a study? 63% of Gen Z send messages via Snapchat during live events.
Who's Gen Z?
I'm Gen X. Gen Y would have been you.
X, Y. So like my
Millennials.
kids? Millennials.
My son.
I'm kind of a millennial.
You're like on the, yeah. I think Z meant something too. Like I remember it does mean something. I should know this. It has a word associated with it. So younger generations are using this.
Okay.
So why are we doing this at live events? Because
instead of 40% of millennials, there's the comparison.
Right.
63 Gen Z, 40% millennials.
Right. So live events. I mean, I certainly love live events. We've talked about this lots before, whether it's a concert or a comedian show or a play. I don't know why I would Snapchat it, because when I take those first few videos or photos, the selfie and post on Facebook so all my friends realize how cool I am, I wouldn't want it to disappear.
Yeah, I think from the business side of this, it's just reinforcing the fact that the Gen Z and millennials, so millennials and younger, are using Snapchat. So we hear a lot about how Instagram's copying Snapchat, and even our experience, as we just talked about, leaning towards Instagram because Instagram copied the features and we're already there, and Snapchat doesn't work on my phone. But I think what this is really indicating is, nope, Snapchat's around to stay. And I've seen a lot of artists who perform using Snapchat to talk to their fans before they go on stage. So they can create their like Snapchat story.
As they do in Instagram.
And so I can see, like, if your audience is, millennials and younger, or if your audience will be those millennials and younger in 10 years, a little bit of an investment in this Snapchat, trying to figure out how to work it into your business is going to pay off 63%.
So I'm reading here. This is quite interesting. Social media sharing is popular while at an event, particularly via Facebook, with millennials and Gen Z preferring Instagram and Snapchat. Mm-hmm. Savvy brands are taking advantage of these trends through partnerships with social media platforms and by teaming up with influencers who are active around a related topic. So, and of course, 66% said word of mouth was their primary way of discovering events. So that's kind of interesting.
The other thing you can do, and anyone can do this, is create like a Snapchat filter that's geolocated. So if you've got an event, you can stick a filter on top of that event. But the other neat way that I've heard about doing this is, let's say you've got a brand that is marketing to high school students. You can stick a filter on top of high schools. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when they're on Snapchat in their school, they have the option for your brand's filter. Like, part of me is like, my goodness, that's
There are certainly standards around advertising to schools and placing that advertising as schools, and where I have seen and this is true with mobile advertising as well. So you can't actually put the pin on the school
But
typically,
you can cover the area.
You can put the pin to the gas station or retail store next door to it. Really, eh?
This filter on Snapchat, like you could do like a city block.
I know you can.
And it charges you for the area and the duration.
Yeah, I get that. But there's also the rules of advertising that prevent advertisers from advertising to schools, at schools, certain products, certain services. So the way to get around that is to drop the pin to the neighboring store.
That's true.
So it's like, oh, well, I'm not really targeting the high school students. I'm actually targeting people who are going to the gas station right next door to the high school.
Yeah, I guess if you're in a, tobacco industry or the beer industry
there's
or something
a lot
like that.
Sugar, soft drinks, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's really neat to think that they're all over Snapchat. I mean, I think we guess that generally.
Yep.
And if you're speaking to that younger market, then that's where they are, whether you like it or not, right?
Like, yeah, basically.
It's like don't tune out. And we encounter this through some of our clients. They're like, oh yeah, no, I don't even understand that stuff. I'm not bothering. Well, you need to understand that if that's where your audience is, or you need to have somebody who understands it that can talk to you about that. Mm-hmm. So this article, by the way, is by Mobile Marketer, and you'll find it on the show notes at themarketingpodcast.ca. What else do we have today, Brendan?
Well, so we're talking a lot about Snapchat and Instagram, and one of the most requested features, I think, on Instagram is the ability to regram. And so a lot of people use the app.
Yep.
There's
a few different apps that
lets you kind of regram.
Copy it and put it back in.
So this is from The Verge, and it's Instagram is testing a feature that lets users, quote, regram posts to stories. So right now what a lot of people will do is they will make an Instagram post, then they'll take a screenshot of that post, and then they'll post that screenshot on their story.
So you don't even need to take a screenshot anymore. There's like a little hamburger menu on the lower right-hand corner that you can save it to your phone.
Oh, right, like to save
so like you're downloading it to your phone. So you don't get like the time of day and your carrier and stuff, so you don't have to screen cap it.
So basically what Instagram is doing is they're allowing resharing to stories. You're allowed to reshare a post to a story, which isn't a regram, but it's kind of a regram.
I would rather go the other way. Like I say, I am more stories first, and then posts second. And I've seen there's, again, third-party tools that allow you to download a story and then post it
interesting.
As a video, right?
I can see the benefit there, too, because you can see the views, right? Like you could see one of your story posts that is doing really well and decide to keep it around.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on how many views and how big of a user you are, and I think this may only be exclusive to business pages or business profiles on Instagram, which any business can get. If they haven't, they should. You get deeper metrics. So if you have a video, once it hits, and I can't recall what that threshold is, like 100 views or something like that, then you get deeper metrics around what it is that they're looking at and where they're entering and exiting, and it's pretty neat where they're coming from, like geographically where those views are coming from. So if you have that as a business and you're getting that kind of traction, you can definitely use those metrics and then put them back out as single posts, because those stories, of course, only last 24 hours. That's what I'd like to do, not the other way around.
Well, so then here's the larger question, right? Like we know that millennials and Gen Zs are on Instagram and Snapchat. We know that both these platforms have the story feature where the stories disappear, and Instagram has the posts. I think a lot of businesses, their main question is, but what do I post there? Do I just take my Twitter post and make it a picture, or my Facebook post and make it a picture and post it in my story? What content should businesses, or what kind of content should businesses be focusing on?
In their stories?
In their Instagram and Snapchat strategies, quote unquote.
Sure. I mean, of course, it's going to depend on the business, and if it's a service business versus a physical goods business, because physical goods, I always find it so much easier when you have a physical product, because there's lots of stories that you can show, stories or photos or whatever. Where I use the term stories, I don't mean it in a posting stories. But like you can show products, hey, check this new thing out, or, and in those platforms you can kind of write on them and tell people what to do, that something's 50% off or what have you. I find that that's easier. And showing those products, this just in, or little tutorials. There's one particular business who I follow, just a local retail shop that does little workshops as well. So they sell physical goods, but then they're like, come on in and we're going to teach you how to make a flower arrangement or like little crafty things. So they'll get on and say, okay, so today I am working on this and here's the before picture. And then they'll show the after picture and then talk about what they did. Or they'll take a few stages, so that you understand. So now you're building loyalty with your customers or your followers, that when I need help with something, it's like, wow, like they were able to show me how to make a flower arrangement. I'm going to go in there and get that vase or get that whatever, trinket to make it a little bit nicer. So adding that kind of value, again, in physical goods. Services are a little bit different because it's kind of like, oh, here's a happy customer who just got their taxes done. If you're in an accountant or something like that, you can't, first of all, really show your customers because of confidentiality, and those are some real concerns. Similarly, we work with people who are medical practitioners, right? Dentists and chiropractors and massage therapists. There's certain rules that they're bound by, so they can't even show their client story. So now what are you showing? So you're showing people kind of inside rooms, getting people to know, if you're a larger practice, letting them get to know who the team are that they're working with,
I almost see it as a personal branding exercise for service-based business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it could be, hey, this is Brendan. Brendan, tell us, what's your favorite color?
Yeah.
And, a quick little 30-second conversation with Brendan today. And as the days go on, we're having 30-second conversations with everybody else. And then we go back and have a conversation.
It's almost like anything you can do to build trust.
Yeah. And staff takeovers are fun too.
Right.
Like your staff have their own following, their own people, their own friends. And if they're articulate and if they're engaged and they're interested, let them do the takeover of your Instagram or your Snapchat, and do like a little day in the life. And maybe it's 5 or 6 posts. It doesn't have to be anything big.
I know that Shopify does that, and they do it in a big way. Like they'll let partners take over the main Shopify accounts for a day.
Yeah.
And so you get a glimpse into one of the partners who lives in the Shopify ecosystem, who's maybe they're making apps, maybe they're making websites, maybe they're a store. Like they have done that with even people who just use the platform who are large enough. And it is very interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, like I enjoy the creativity around doing like a story or a Snapchat where I can draw on and add all the little, filters and all that kind of fun stuff. But for me, like I'm always trying to do it while I'm walking and talking it on the move. And I want to make it better, but it's never going to get any better, right? It's like, okay, here's this, and I'll throw the time on there and stick a heart on it, and hey, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And I see some of them, and they're like so beautifully done and super thoughtful and well mapped. And I mean, we do that work for our clients, but when it comes to my own, it's like I'm the shoemaker's kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like, quick, do something on the fly and go.
And so what about frequency then? Like these are really real-time apps, especially Instagram. Like they don't let you schedule anything. Like a lot of businesses rely on scheduling.
They do now allow.
Oh, they are allowing businesses, right?
Businesses only, and on a handful of third-party providers.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, many people who are in this business know Hootsuite is kind of one of the primary services. We use a service called Later. Later was one of the ones that were excluded. I've had some lengthy conversations over the past week once the announcement had been made, and they're in the process of working on it too.
Right, to get it.
And by the time this podcast actually hits air, it may actually be out.
Awesome.
So, but it is just businesses. They're going to roll it out to people down the road. But they're forecasting like a year before like average Joe can schedule stuff. But having said that, to your first question was about
just the frequency.
The frequency, sorry, yeah. I mean, stories, you want a nice story up there every, I would say, 36 hours. Because 24 hours, of course, is how long it lasts. If your picture's up there all the time, like your brand is up there all the time, people are going to grow weary of it and not want to look forward to seeing it. You'll get fewer plays of that.
Right. You almost want it to stop and start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's with Instagram stories particularly. Snapchat stories is pretty much the same kind of concept as well. When we're talking about Instagram posts, It's so weird because their algorithm now has changed. It's not just showing like first in, first out and kind of scrolling it down. It's really just showing you what the community shows. So frequency is really moot. What you want to do is make sure that you're frequent enough so that when somebody visits your Instagram page, like they see a post and maybe they haven't seen from you for a while and they're like, oh, let's see what they're up to. And they go and they see, like 3 or 4 somewhat current things, right? If they go there and it's here we are in February and it's a summertime post, you think, oh, they're not even updating. This is the first thing that they've done. Then they're going to lose interest pretty quickly. Or if it's, the first 6 frames that you see on your phone when you go into somebody's profile and they're all like talking at you, sale, sale, sale.
Yeah,
like people
right.
aren't going to be interested, right? So you want to think about what that first 6 are when somebody goes over to your profile and see if they're current and if they're relevant and if they're interesting. And if they're not, then that's the frequency you need to keep that fresh.
To keep it going. Well, I've got some interesting numbers that I'm going to run by you, and this is from Omnicore, and we'll link it. It's just statistics on both Instagram and Snapchat. So they estimate that there are 800 million monthly active users on Instagram, whereas Snapchat only has 300 million. And then they say that there's 178 million daily active Snapchat users, and then there's 500 million daily active Instagram users. What do you think?
I'm processing.
Makes sense? So basically, it looks like Instagram seems to have almost twice as many, just over twice as much activity as Snapchat. Then if I go down a little bit further, I just got to get the corresponding one here. They don't have stories next to each other. They're saying that there's 300 million stories, daily active story users a day on Instagram.
And 400 million on Snapchat? Is that what I'm saying? Created per day.
Snap photos, I just see in the creative per day. So I guess it's because all Snapchats disappear. Like all of them are stories. So they're saying that there's 1 million Snapchats created per day. I don't know. No numbers don't seem to, like daily active users. I guess that doesn't mean created. I guess that means looked at.
Mm-hmm.
So for a business, like, should we just ignore Snapchat?
No.
Well, the Instagram has bigger numbers.
But who's your audience?
I guess.
45% of Snapchat users are between the ages of 18 and 24.
There
45%.
There you
so
go.
if you are going after that audience, then gosh darn, you need to be there.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if if they put a respective number in Instagram on the Instagram numbers. They don't. It's mostly just about Snapchat numbers, huh? We seem to feel that we get the most success in Instagram with kind of the 30 to 45
Interesting.
age group. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe that's more anecdotal, and it could be reflective of the brands that we're working with and what have you. But it's definitely and seems like an older audience. Not older, like 35 to or 30 to 45 isn't old by any means. I'm in that demographic.
Not old.
Not old at all. But if you're going after the 18 to 24, that's a totally different audience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's the takeaway, really.
Yeah.
Find your audience.
Go after them.
And go after them.
Yeah. If you're looking for my mother, find her on Facebook. Making really inappropriate status updates.
as all mothers do on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Actually, my mother isn't even on Facebook, so.
Bullet dodge.
Exactly. Awesome. So is that it? Have we went through everything?
That is all I have.
That is the show. So I do want to say, of course, you can find all the links to the articles on the show website in the show notes for the marketingpodcast.ca. Weigh in on your thoughts. Join in the conversation with us on Twitter at marketingpod_, and also on Facebook at the Marketing Podcast.
And not really Instagram or Snapchat.
No, we are on Instagram, but not much so. Again, shoemaker's kids. A little bit there, not as much as we should. So for the Marketing Podcast, I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.
Thanks for joining us.